The massive viewing screen on the bridge of the Centauri flagship Star Defender painted a grim picture of the battle. Captain Tom gripped his command chair's armrests tighter as another friendly ship disappeared from the tactical display. His heart sank as he watched the green dots representing his fleet grow fewer by the minute. "Sir, we've lost the Light Wing Squadron," reported Officer White, his voice trembling slightly. "The Drax forces are pushing through Sector 7. The battle had been raging for 6 hours now. What started as a routine patrol near the strategic Morrison wormhole had turned into a devastating ambush by the Drax Empire. The Centauri defense fleet, though well-trained, was simply outnumbered 5-1. Captain Tom stood up and walked closer to the main display. The red dots representing Drax ships seemed endless. Their black warships, shaped like giant arrowheads, kept appearing from behind the nearby moon. Each one was bristling with energy weapons and missile launchers. "Move our remaining cruisers to protect the medical ships," Tom ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos. "We can't let them target our wounded." The bridge crew worked frantically at their stations. Emergency lights cast an eerie red glow across their tired faces. The Star Defender shook violently as another volley of enemy fire struck their shields. "Shields at 43%. Called out Engineer Brown from his station. "We can't take much more of this, Captain." Tom knew their situation was desperate. The Centauri fleet had started with 30 ships. Now only 12 remained. But the wormhole they were defending was too important to abandon. If the Drax gained control of it, they would have a direct route to 3 populated Centauri worlds. "Send another distress call," Tom commanded. "All frequencies, all channels. Someone must hear us." Officer White worked at his console, but suddenly stopped. His eyes widened as he stared at his readings. "Captain, I'm detecting something strange at the edge of the battle zone." Tom turned to look at him. "Drax reinforcements." "No, sir. These energy signatures. I've never seen anything like them. They're massive, but they don't match any known ship patterns in our database." The main screen shifted to show the area in question. The empty space near the battle zone began to ripple, like waves on a pond. Strange blue lights flickered in and out of existence, growing larger and more numerous. "All ships, hold position," Tom ordered through the fleet-wide channel. Even the Drax ships seemed to pause their attack, their sensors undoubtedly detecting the same anomaly. The energy readings continued to climb. Officer White's console began beeping urgently. "Sir, the energy output is off the charts. Whatever's coming through, it's bigger than anything we've ever encountered." The space in front of them suddenly burst with brilliant white light, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When they looked again, their jaws dropped in amazement. A ship had appeared, but calling it merely a ship felt like calling a sun merely a light. It was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the largest Drax dreadnought. Its hull was a gleaming silver gray, with blue energy patterns pulsing along its surface. The design was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Sleek yet powerful, advanced yet practical. "Sir," Officer White whispered, "we're receiving an identification signal from the vessel." Tom found his voice. "What? What does it say?" "It identifies itself as the HMS Thunderchild." White paused, checking his readings again. "Sir, it's a human vessel." A collective gasp went through the bridge. Humans were known to exist. Their radio signals had been detected years ago. But they had never ventured this far into space before, or so everyone thought. The Thunderchild moved forward with graceful precision, positioning itself between the Centauri fleet and the Drax forces. Its size cast a shadow over several smaller ships. "Captain," Engineer Brown called out, "those energy readings, their technology level is far beyond both ours and the Drax. Their power output alone is." Before he could finish, every screen on the bridge lit up with an incoming transmission. The message was being broadcast on all frequencies, in perfect Centauri language. "This is Commander James of the Earth ship Thunderchild. We've been watching this region of space for some time. We had hoped our first contact would be under better circumstances, But it seems the universe had other plans. Commander James stood on the bridge of the HMS Thunderchild, his experienced eyes taking in the battle scene before him. The ship's advanced displays showed every detail of both fleets, the desperate Centauri defenders and the aggressive Drax forces. The bridge itself was a marvel of human engineering, with holographic controls floating at each station and a panoramic view that made the walls seem invisible. "Status report," James ordered, his voice calm but commanding. "All systems at full power," reported Officer Wilson from the tactical station. "Shields are at maximum. Weapon systems are ready but not armed. The Drax fleet appears to be reassessing their strategy. They've halted their attack." The bridge of the Thunderchild was surprisingly quiet despite the tension. Unlike the cramped, busy bridges of alien ships, human vessels were designed with efficiency in mind. Each crew member had plenty of space at their advanced workstations, and the ship's AI handled thousands of minor tasks automatically. "The Drax flagship is hailing us," announced Communications Officer Davis. "Their admiral wants to speak." James nodded. On screen, the main display lit up with the image of Admiral Cross of the Drax Empire. Like all Drax, he had gray, armored skin and multiple eyes that blinked in sequence. His uniform was covered in medals and badges of conquest. "Unknown vessel," Cross growled. "You are interfering in an authorized military operation. Remove yourself immediately or face the consequences." James allowed himself a small smile. "Admiral Cross, I don't believe you're in a position to make threats. My single ship outmasses your entire fleet, and that's just what you can see." The Drax Admiral's eyes narrowed. "You dare to?" "Yes, I dare," James interrupted. "We've been watching your empire's expansion for months now. We've seen how you treat peaceful species. The bullying ends today." As if to emphasize his point, the Thunderchild's external lights activated, illuminating its full size. The ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, over 4 kilometers long, with multiple layers of advanced armor and weapon systems that were carefully hidden beneath its smooth surface. "Chief Engineer Taylor," James called out, "give our friends a small demonstration. Power level 1. "Aye, Commander." The Thunderchild hummed softly as some of its hidden systems activated. Panels along its hull slid open, revealing rows of point defense turrets. More importantly, the ship's gravitational field expanded slightly, causing several nearby Drax ships to shift position involuntarily. On the tactical display, Officer Wilson noted dozens of targeting locks from the Drax fleet. "They're preparing to fire, sir." "Let them," James replied confidently. "Defensive systems only. Let's show them what they're dealing with." The Drax ships opened fire simultaneously. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles streaked toward the Thunderchild. The bridge crew remained calm, some even smiling slightly. What happened next stunned both alien fleets. The human ship's defense field lit up, creating beautiful patterns of blue energy as it effortlessly absorbed or deflected every single attack. Not even a slight tremor was felt on the bridge. "No damage," reported Taylor. "Shield strength still at 100%. Their weapons didn't even make our defensive systems work hard." James turned his attention back to the still-open communication channel. Admiral Cross's face showed a mix of shock and rage. Behind him, his bridge crew was frantically checking their sensors. "That was your best shot," James stated matter-of-factly. "Now let me be clear. You have exactly 10 minutes to recall your forces and leave this sector. If you choose to stay," he let the threat hang in the air. "You think one ship can stand against the might of the Drax Empire?" Cross snarled, but there was uncertainty in his voice. James's expression hardened. Who said anything about one ship? On cue, space rippled around the battlefield as dozens of hidden human vessels dropped their stealth fields. They had been there the entire time, waiting and watching. Each ship was smaller than the Thunderchild, but still formidable, and they had positioned themselves strategically around the Drax fleet. "The Thunderchild isn't here as a weapon," James explained. It's here as a warning. Those ships you see, they're just the escort fleet. So, Admiral, what's it going to be? 10 minutes start now. The bridge fell silent as everyone waited for the Drax response. In the background, Officer Wilson quietly activated the weapon targeting systems, hoping they wouldn't be needed but ready just in case. The next few minutes would determine if this first contact would end in peace or become humanity's first interstellar battle. Admiral Cross's face turned a darker shade of gray as he watched more human ships appear around his fleet. His tactical officer was frantically reporting the numbers. 50 ships, then 70, then nearly 100 human vessels of various sizes had revealed themselves. The Drax fleet, once seeming overwhelmingly powerful, now looked small in comparison. On the Thunderchild's bridge, Commander James waited patiently. 8 minutes remained in his ultimatum. He turned to Officer Davis at Communications. Send the data package to all ships, both Drax and Centauri. Let them see exactly what they're dealing with. The data stream went out, filling the screens of every ship in the battle zone. It contained detailed recordings of human ships secretly observing Drax military operations over the past year. Their attacks on peaceful worlds, their destruction of civilian vessels, and their brutal occupation tactics. But more importantly, it showed instances where human ships could have intervened, but held back, gathering intelligence instead. Sir, Officer Wilson reported from Tactical. The Drax are powering up their weapons again. They're also trying to coordinate their fleet into an attack formation. James nodded calmly. As expected, Officer Davis, open a channel to all ships, all frequencies. The communication officer complied, and James stood up, his voice carrying across every vessel in the battle zone. This is Commander James of the HMS Thunderchild. What you've just received is only a fraction of what we know about this conflict. For the past year, Earth's deep space fleet has been watching, learning, and preparing. We've seen enough. He paused, letting his words sink in. On the main screen, Admiral Cross was speaking urgently with his officers, their movements becoming more agitated. To the Centauri Defense Fleet, James continued, "Your bravery in defending your people is commendable. We apologize for not intervening sooner, but we needed to understand the full scope of the situation." Captain Tom's image appeared on a secondary screen, his expression a mixture of relief and amazement. The remaining Centauri ships had begun moving closer to the Thunderchild, seeking its protection. And to the Drax Empire, James's voice hardened. "Let me be perfectly clear about what happens next. You have 6 minutes remaining to retreat. If you choose to stay and fight, you will learn why humans have a saying, 'Don't start what you can't finish.'" Admiral Cross finally responded, his voice filled with rage. "You dare threaten the mighty Drax Empire? We have conquered 30 star systems. Our fleet has crushed hundreds of alien vessels. We will not be intimidated by." James cut him off with a simple gesture. "Officer Taylor, demonstration 2, please." The Thunderchild's chief engineer pressed a few holographic controls. A small, concentrated beam of energy shot out from one of the human ship's minor weapon ports. It struck an empty piece of space between the fleets. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, a hole appeared in space itself. A controlled, artificial micro-wormhole that closed just as quickly as it had opened. The display of power was subtle but terrifying in its implications. The human ships could manipulate space-time itself as a weapon. That, James explained calmly, was less than 1% of our main weapon's power. The next demonstration won't be aimed at empty space. 4 minutes remaining, Admiral. The Drax fleet erupted into chaos. Some ships began turning away immediately, while others held their positions, waiting for orders. Admiral Cross's face had turned almost white, a sign of extreme fear in his species. On the Centauri vessels, crews watched in awe as their longtime tormentors faced a power they couldn't bully or overwhelm. Captain Tom ordered his remaining ships to maintain their positions near the human fleet, realizing they were witnessing a historic moment. 3 minutes, James announced. He turned to his crew. Tactical, maintain targeting locks. Engineering, keep the drive systems hot. Let's hope they make the right choice, but be ready if they don't. The tension on the bridge was thick as they watched the Drax fleet's movements. Would the Empire's famous pride force them into a disastrous battle, or would they finally face the reality of their situation? The next few minutes would reveal if this section of space would see peace or witness the full power of human military technology. The countdown continued, and every ship in the battle zone waited to see which path the Drax would choose. 2 minutes remained in Commander James's ultimatum when the Drax made their decision. Instead of retreating, Admiral Cross's flagship suddenly launched a massive barrage of missiles toward the Thunderchild. The rest of the Drax fleet followed suit, filling space with thousands of energy beams and projectiles. As expected, James said calmly, "Officer Taylor, show them why human engineering is different. Activate the Aegis system." The space around the Thunderchild transformed. What looked like ripples of blue lightning spread out from the ship's hull, forming complex geometric patterns. As the Drax weapons approached, something remarkable happened. The energy beams didn't just hit shields. They were caught in magnetic fields, redirected, and sent harmlessly into space. Missiles didn't simply explode against barriers. They were systematically disassembled in mid-flight, their components falling away as the Aegis system's nanobots took them apart at the molecular level. "Sir," reported Officer Wilson, "the Drax are scanning us. They're trying to understand how we're doing this." James smiled slightly. "Let them look. Officer Taylor, explain to our friends what they're seeing." The chief engineer opened a channel to all ships. The Aegis defense system is just one example of human innovation. While other species focused on making stronger shields, we thought differently. Why stop an attack when you can turn it into something harmless? On their bridges, both Centauri and Drax crews watched in amazement as the Thunderchild's defense system didn't just protect the ship. It seemed to deny the basic laws of physics that other species took for granted. "Multiple Drax ships moving to surround us," Wilson announced. "Let them," James ordered. "Time for the next lesson. Engineer Taylor, activate the gravity web." The human escort ships, which had remained passive until now, suddenly created a network of gravitational fields. The Drax vessels found themselves unable to maintain their planned positions, trapped like insects in an invisible spider's web. "What you're experiencing," Taylor continued his explanation, "is a controlled manipulation of local spacetime. Your engines can't overcome it because you're trying to move through space that isn't behaving the way you expect it to." Admiral Cross's voice came through, showing the first signs of real fear. "This is impossible. No species can control gravity itself." "Impossible," James replied. "Humanity has a long history of doing the impossible. We split the atom, walked on our moon, cured diseases that killed millions, and learned to harness dark energy. All because someone once said those things were impossible." The Thunderchild's hull began to glow softly, panels opening to reveal more advanced systems. But these weren't weapons. They were analytical tools, scanning the Drax ships down to their smallest components. "Your shield generators are operating at 147% of their design capacity," Taylor noted, reading the scans. "They'll burn out in approximately 3 minutes. Your weapon systems are already showing signs of stress from continuous fire. Would you like me to continue listing the flaws in your engineering?" The Drax ships' attacks were becoming less coordinated. Some vessels had completely drained their energy reserves trying to break free of the gravity web, while others had damaged their own systems by pushing them too hard. On the Centauri ships, technical officers were frantically recording everything they saw. The human technology was beyond their comprehension, but the principles behind it, the way of thinking differently about problems, that they could learn. "One final demonstration," James announced. "Officer Taylor, show them the phase shift." The Thunderchild suddenly flickered, like a bad video transmission. When it stabilized, The massive ship had somehow moved through several Drax vessels without harming them, ending up on the other side of their formation. "We can temporarily shift our matter out of phase with normal space," Taylor explained. "Your weapons, your shields, even your ships, they might as well be shadows to us when we do this." The Drax fleet finally fell silent. Their weapons stopped firing, their engines powered down, and their ships hung motionless in space. Admiral Cross's face appeared on the screen one last time, but now all his pride was gone. The Admiral's voice shook, "we will withdraw. The Drax Empire acknowledges its miscalculation." James nodded. "A wise decision, Admiral. The gravity web will release your ships one at a time. Each will be escorted to the sector boundary by a human vessel. Remember this day, and remember this lesson. Humanity values peace, but we are not to be taken lightly." The battle was over, not with destruction, but with the simple demonstration of how far humanity had advanced while watching from the shadows. As the Drax fleet began their organized withdrawal, a single ship broke formation. The massive Drax dreadnought, Empire's Fist, suddenly fired up its engines to maximum power, charging directly at the Thunderchild. "Looks like someone wants to dance," Commander James said calmly. "Officer Wilson, analyze their ship. Officer Taylor, prepare for evasive maneuvers." The Drax dreadnought was impressive. Nearly 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons, and according to scans, carrying their latest experimental technology. Its captain had clearly decided to try one last desperate attack. "Let's show them how humans dance in space," James announced. "All crew, battle stations. But remember, disable only. No destruction." What followed was unlike anything the watching Centauri fleet had ever seen. The Thunderchild, despite its enormous size, moved with impossible grace. As the Drax dreadnought fired its main weapons, the human ship spiraled around the energy beams as if they were standing still. "Sir," Officer Wilson reported, "they're using their new quantum torpedoes, the ones that can track through dimensional space." James nodded. "Perfect. Taylor, initiate the ballet protocol." The Thunderchild's movement pattern changed. Instead of just dodging, it began moving in precise, calculated patterns. Each movement served multiple purposes: avoiding attacks, positioning for countermeasures, and most importantly, leading the Drax ship exactly where James wanted it. "They're launching their torpedoes," Wilson announced. 20 quantum-guided weapons. The torpedoes streaked through space, their advanced guidance systems allowing them to follow the Thunderchild through its complex maneuvers. But James and his crew remained calm. "Now," James ordered, "show them why we named this the ballet protocol." The Thunderchild suddenly spun on its axis, creating a spiral of gravitational distortions. The quantum torpedoes, programmed to track their target through any evasion, followed the distortions. As they did, their paths began to cross each other. "They're using their own weapons programming against them," Captain Tom breathed in amazement from his watching position on the Centauri flagship. He was right. The Thunderchild's movements had turned the torpedoes' advanced tracking systems into a weakness. Unable to avoid each other while following their target, the weapons began colliding, creating a spectacular display of explosions that looked like a dance of light. "Their dreadnought is preparing for another attack run," Wilson reported. "They're diverting all power to their main gun." James smiled. "Time for the final. Taylor, position us for the Riven maneuver." The Thunderchild began moving in an elaborate pattern, leaving behind trails of ionized particles. These trails formed a complex web around the Drax ship, glowing with different colors as they interacted with each other. "Beautiful, isn't it?" James commented. "Officer Davis, open a channel to their dreadnought." The Drax captain appeared on screen, his face showing a mix of fury and frustration. "Your ship is now surrounded by a web of quantum-entangled particles," James explained. "If you fire your main weapon, the energy will be caught in an endless loop through the web. The backlash would disable your ship completely." To demonstrate, The Thunderchild fired a tiny energy pulse into the particle web. The pulse bounced between the trails of particles, growing stronger with each reflection, until it was a blinding stream of energy circling the Drax vessel. That was 0.1% power, James stated. Imagine what your main gun would do. The Drax captain stared at his sensors, realizing his ship was completely trapped. The mighty dreadnought, pride of the Empire's fleet, had been defeated without taking a single hit. The dance is over, James announced. Power down your weapons and join the withdrawal. Our escort ships will ensure you reach the sector boundary safely. As the dreadnought finally powered down its systems, the watching Centauri crews broke into cheers. They had just witnessed a complete revolution in space combat, where superior technology and intelligence had overcome brute force. The Thunderchild dissolved the particle web with a pulse of energy, creating one final beautiful display of lights. As the Drax dreadnought turned to join its retreating fleet, James turned to his crew. Well done, everyone. But our work isn't finished yet. He looked at the Centauri ships on his display. Now comes the real challenge, helping our new friends rebuild and prepare for the future. The battle was over, and the dance of ships in space had proven that humanity's approach to warfare, like everything else, was uniquely their own. As the last Drax ships disappeared into the distance, escorted by human vessels, Commander James prepared for the next phase of their mission. He turned to his communications officer. Officer Davis, connect me to Fleet Command. It's time to show our new friends the full extent of human presence in this sector. The main screen lit up with the image of Admiral West from the hidden human defense fleet headquarters. Unlike the visible ships in the battle zone, this facility had remained completely undetectable to both Centauri and Drax sensors. Permission to reveal Operation Starlight, sir, James asked. The Admiral nodded. Granted, Commander. Let's show them why Earth chose this moment to reveal itself. James opened a channel to the Centauri ships. Captain Tom, what I'm about to show you is something we've kept hidden for the past 5 years. Officer Taylor, deactivate the quantum shrouds. Space itself seemed to shimmer around them. Suddenly, massive structures began appearing throughout the sector. Hidden behind advanced cloaking technology, humans had built an entire network of defense stations, monitoring outposts and supply bases. Impossible, Captain Tom whispered. These stations, they're everywhere. Not just stations, James replied. Taylor, signal the patrol fleets. More human ships dropped their cloaking fields, hundreds of them, arranged in perfect defensive formations around key strategic points. Some were small and agile, others rivaled the Thunderchild in size. Each represented a different aspect of human military technology. This is the real reason the Drax Empire never succeeded in fully conquering this sector, James explained. Every time their expansion plans seemed to hit unexpected problems or technical failures, it was us, working from the shadows, protecting species that weren't ready for direct contact. On the Centauri ship's screens, a complete strategic map appeared. It showed how human forces had systematically contained Drax expansion, using methods so subtle that neither side had realized they were being influenced. Those random sensor ghosts your ships detected, James continued. Our scout drones, the unexplained equipment failures during Drax attacks, our cyber warfare teams, the mysterious energy readings that made some routes too dangerous to navigate, our space-time distortion fields. Captain Tom's voice shook slightly. You've been protecting us all along. Yes and no, James replied. We protected you from total defeat, but we also needed you to grow stronger on your own. Every battle you fought made your people more resilient. Every technology you developed made you more prepared for the greater challenges ahead. The main screen shifted to show various human installations. Some were dedicated to scientific research, others to diplomatic preparation, and many to defense. All had remained perfectly hidden until this moment. But why reveal yourselves now? Captain Tom asked. Admiral West spoke up. Because something is coming, Captain. something that requires all spacefaring species to stand together. The Drax Empire's aggression was becoming a distraction from the real threat. James nodded. Our long-range sensors detected it 3 years ago, a force that makes the Drax Empire look tiny in comparison. We needed this sector united and prepared, not weakened by internal conflicts. The display showed a massive dark region of space, far beyond known territories. Strange energy readings pulsed from within it, unlike anything seen before. This is why we built all this. James gestured at the revealed infrastructure. Not just to protect, but to prepare. Every human ship you see represents thousands of hours studying your species, learning your cultures, and figuring out how to help you advance without interfering directly. Captain Tom straightened in his chair. What do you need from us? Partnership, James replied. Earth doesn't want subjects or servants. We want allies who can stand beside us as equals. The Centauri's courage and determination impressed us. That's why we chose your sector as the first to know the truth. Admiral West added, your people have 1 month to prepare. After that, we'll reveal ourselves to the rest of the galaxy. Together, we'll convince other species to put aside their conflicts and unite. Because what's coming won't care about our differences. It'll only care about our survival. The revelation of humanity's hidden power had changed everything. As the Centauri crews looked at the massive human infrastructure around them, they realized this wasn't just first contact with a powerful species. This was an invitation to join something greater, an alliance that would reshape the galaxy itself. 1 month after humanity's revelation, the Morrison wormhole became the busiest point in Centauri space. Ships from all major species gathered there, summoned by Earth for what would become known as the Galaxy Summit. The Thunderchild, now a symbol of human technological advancement, floated at the center of the gathering. Around it, vessels from 30 different civilizations waited, including, surprisingly, several Drax ships. Commander James stood on his bridge, watching the final preparations. The massive space station that humans had uncloaked near the wormhole now served as the meeting point. Its design allowed representatives from species with different atmospheric needs to gather safely. All delegates have arrived, Officer Davis reported. Even the Drax Empire sent their High Chancellor instead of their military leaders. James nodded. Amazing what a little demonstration of superior technology can do for diplomatic relations. How are our guests from the Centauri fleet? Captain Tom is leading their delegation, Wilson answered. They're already inside the station, helping other species understand what happened here last month. The past month had transformed the sector. With human assistance, the Centauri had rapidly advanced their technology. More importantly, they had become the bridge between humanity and other species, helping them understand that Earth's intervention wasn't about conquest, but survival. Admiral West is ready to begin the presentation, Davis announced. The main screen activated, showing the station's Grand Assembly Hall. Representatives from all known spacefaring races sat in environmental chambers suited to their needs. The atmosphere was tense but hopeful. Admiral West stood at the central podium, her uniform bearing the new insignia of the United Earth Fleet. Distinguished delegates, she began. 1 month ago, humanity revealed itself to the Centauri people. Today, we reveal ourselves to all of you, and more importantly, we reveal why. The hall's holographic system activated, displaying the dark region of space that humans had detected. But now the image showed more detail. Massive objects moving within the darkness, each larger than an entire fleet. What you're seeing is an extragalactic threat, West continued. A species or group of species that has already consumed 2 satellite galaxies. They're headed for our galaxy, and their estimated arrival time is less than 5 years. The assembly erupted in concerned murmurs. The Drax High Chancellor stood up, his previously proud demeanor replaced by genuine worry. How can we trust this information? How do we know this isn't a trick to control us? Captain Tom stepped forward. 1 month ago, my people asked the same questions. Then we saw what humanity had built while hiding in plain sight. They could have conquered us all years ago. Instead, they protected us, guided us, and prepared us. James watched as understanding spread through the assembly. The humans had revealed massive defense networks around every major species territory, networks that had been protecting them without their knowledge. "We offer you a choice," Admiral West continued. "Stand with us. Join the Galactic Defense Initiative. Share your strengths, and we'll share our technology, not as rulers and subjects, but as equals facing extinction together." The assembly hall grew quiet as the implications sank in. The Drax Chancellor was the first to speak. "The Empire accepts. Our military strength would be valuable to this alliance." One by one, other species joined. Each brought unique abilities. The Centauri's determination, the Drax's military experience, others' specialized knowledge in biology, physics, or cultural understanding. On the Thunderchild's bridge, James watched the proceedings with satisfaction. "Send the signal," he ordered. "Show them what awaits if we succeed." The station's holographic system displayed a new image, a vision of the future. Vast fleets of hybrid ships combining technology from all species, defensive installations that could protect entire sectors. And at the core, something even greater, a united galaxy ready to face any threat. "The next 5 years will reshape our galaxy," Admiral West concluded. "Earth doesn't want to rule this alliance. We want to help build it. Together, we'll create defenses never seen before. Together, we'll survive." As the assembly erupted in determined applause, James turned to his crew. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them Phase 1 is complete. Operation Galaxy Shield is now active." The Thunderchild's presence had started as a show of force, but it ended as a beacon of hope. As the delegations began their detailed planning, the ship's crew knew they had witnessed the beginning of a new era, one where humanity's greatest achievement wasn't their technology, but their ability to unite a galaxy facing extinction. The real challenge still lay ahead, but for the first time, the galaxy would face it together.